Welcome to the He Said,
She said,
We Said podcast. I'm Todd, and this is
Pam.
Pam. All right, guys. Today we're talking about when do you intervene and when do you let it go. I know that's a tough one for parents sometimes. You know, you see your child and they're struggling with something, you just want to jump in there and solve it for them. And so I'm going to tell a story today about how we've dealt with a lot of situations with our kids, and hopefully you'll be able to take something from this to help guide your kids to be able to work through the obstacles of life. Hope was in 6th grade. I remember this vividly. And she was struggling with this one teacher. And nothing super bad, but she just didn't feel like the teacher liked her. She felt like the teacher was a little too hard on her. The teacher gave her some demerits, and it wasn't even her fault. Like somebody else did the thing, and she just happened to be close to proximity and got demerits. And so she just didn't know how to deal with it. And I mean, she talked to us 3 or 4 times, and we gave her some solutions. We were like, she was like, what should I do? We gave her some advice, and she came back and says, okay, what else can I do? And we gave her some more advice, and we watched her for 4 or 6 weeks, and we started to see that she's coming back for more advice, but she's not utilizing the tools.
Right.
Right. We're giving her these tools and she's not using them. And we sort of debated on should we intervene or not, because, the first thing is as a dad, I want to be like, well, let's have a meeting with the teacher. We'll solve it right now, which then just makes your child feel bad. So we discussed it and we said, you know what, we're going to intervene differently than most. And we dropped a very, very nice email to the language arts teacher and said, hey, Hope is struggling a little bit in the class. She doesn't always feel confident when she's in the class. She's not quite sure your feelings towards her. And we sort of pointed out a couple of situations, and so we sent this really nice email and it said, Hope obviously doesn't know that we're sending this email. So if there's anything you could do, like ask these questions, that might open the door for her to talk to you.
Right.
And so a couple of days afterwards, between classes, the teacher pulled her to the side and said, hey, I'm talking to each one of the kids because I'm always wanting to be a better teacher, and I want to know what I could do better for you. And we didn't. So when I say intervene, normally we intervene and we save the child. And this situation wasn't one of those situations. We strove to give her the tools, and when she wasn't utilizing the tools, we went back door. And what was really neat with this situation is that when the teacher says, how can I be a better teacher? She felt like then that was a safe environment because the teacher was asking, and she opened up all the tools that we had given her. And now they've got a much, much better relationship. I mean, we're going into our 3rd year, but
Right.
This teacher is our language arts teacher, and they've got a really good, per se friendship, student-teacher relationship. And I think that was a big deal, is not to intervene and just solve it, but help her walk through those situations.
Particularly, she was able to understand Hope better and what Hope needed to either learn better or to organize herself better or to manage the information that was being given to her, which, was one of the biggest issues. Was there was a lot going on and she didn't know how to get organized enough to make sure to give the teacher the work at the particular time that she needed to give it to her, and so on and so forth. So there was a lot. It wasn't just misunderstandings. It was just her helping Hope figure out how to get organized enough to be able to get all the homework and information back to her teacher.
It's funny sitting here. I had to run through my notes real quick. It reminds me of episode 16 when we were talking about the social struggles kids go through.
Mm-hmm.
And Hope said, being able to talk to teachers.
Right.
Right. And this is a prime example of that we could have just jumped in and said, hey, she can't talk to you. You guys get together, get a powwow going. Right. But we didn't. We understood that that's one of her struggles. And we helped open the door and bridge the gap so that she could understand that being able to talk to her teachers is a safe place.
Right.
Whereas before, everybody looks at you, if I tell the teacher, I'm going to get in trouble, then they're going to tell the principal, and the principal's going to this and that. And we were able to provide those tools and intervene slightly, just very subtly, but not really solve it. She still had to solve it for herself.
Right.
And I think that's where today we as parents have to make sure that we do our best. I was talking this morning about the new book that I'm writing, The Farming Parent, whatever the title is going to be, is like we have to find the obstacles to put in front of our children and help them work through them, because
Right.
we have to be able to teach them to critically think, to be able to see an obstacle in life and go, how do I work through this, not run away from it. And, sometimes, for me or you, it's easy to go talk to the teacher,
Right.
but for her, it wasn't. So by being there, we were still able to give her the tools and yet intervene, but not really intervene. Does that make sense? So parents, every time your child has this obstacle, help them think through the obstacle, help them find the solutions to the obstacle, help them figure out and navigate the ways to get through failures and negative situations. And then when you see that they're struggling and can't get to the other side, and it's almost become an impasse, they can't get there, then that's when you can intervene. But even at that point, it's just intervene enough to get them to the other side so that they get the win. Because when they get the win because they feel like they accomplished, that's when you get that growth and confidence. Thank you for being part of today's podcast. Don't forget, follow us on Apple, Google, or Spotify.